Welcome back to the Road to Waifu, and today we are doing March Madness anime style. So we have a fun episode.
We are just gonna be here talking about who wins against who in a fight, but we're gonna try to make it fun and not just us jerking off a single character for the next hour or so. I don't know how long this is gonna take, Morgan. This is the first time we've done
It'll take as long as
anything
it
like
takes,
this.
man. And it'll be random to a certain degree. Eric will talk about that later. But before we get into it, we're gonna set up our bracket, and we have set up a low-powered weight class just because if we were gonna pit the anime all-stars against each other, we know that you guys out there would have issues with it. So we took Goku,
Like
Ichigo, Naruto off the table.
Luffy, they're off the table. Sung Jin Woo's not showing up. Rimuru's not showing up. Gojo is not showing up. These are characters we thought that, hey, if we toss them against Naruto or Gojo, it's gonna be a slaughter.
It would be a one-sided fight.
They would not have a chance. And I'm sure one of you out there is gonna be angry that your character has no chance against these heavyweights, but let's be honest, some of these, it's not that we don't like these characters, and it's not that they're weak in their own universe. It's just that power level wise, if you can bench press a planet, you're not in this list.
This is a different, this is I don't know, what is like the actual WWE? It's like there's heavyweights and then there's lightweights. This is the lightweight bracket.
And not to say that they're weak, they're just
lightweight.
When you put a lightweight against a heavyweight, the heavyweight wins every time. There's just no question about it.
So
the best lightweight can still lose. Usually loses to the middling heavyweight.
Yeah. So anyway, Eric, do you want to tell them how we're going to be setting up our bracket today?
Yes. So we are spinning a wheel so that there is proof that we're not affecting these brackets. We have all the names in front of you. If you don't know these characters, we're going to do a quick explanation of what their abilities may be. Throughout the episode, we might also have to pull up the Wikipedia pages if the fight ends up going down to the wire.
We'll see.
We're just going to try to have fun today.
We're just winging
it. Even though this whole episode is probably going to put a target on our backs from every single one of these. Oh, another rule was one character from every anime. Yeah, you couldn't double up on a particular anime just because it's a little more fun, a little more variety.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into it. Let's spin that wheel.
In our one position, Tsunayoshi Sawada from Hitman Reborn.
Hitman Reborn.
Tsunayoshi is being trained as the next mafia boss, has flame and ice abilities, and flight. So that mobility might be very interesting depending on who he ends up fighting against.
True. It's true. But let's see what our other contenders are before we make any definitive statements.
So this next one will be his first matchup?
This will be who Sawada is going up against. We're doing this so simple. I'm just going down a traditional bracket and just filling it in.
He's against Maka from Soul Eater.
Maka!
So, interesting. This is technically a 1v1 fight. However, she will have soul because otherwise she wouldn't have a weapon. Maka's not really a fist fighter.
Yeah, because, she needs... So... We're doing this as if these are these characters at their peak ability. So Maka wouldn't be at her peak ability if she didn't have her scythe. Her scythe happens to have a persona, and we're not going to
separate them just for the sake of argument. But Maka is a very skilled fighter. She uses one of the hardest weapons to use, and I think she's going to be a great contender.
It's going to be an interesting matchup, for sure.
Denji from Chainsaw Man.
Denji is such a wild card.
He is. I think his biggest weakness in this fight will be his endurance. So, at the beginning of every fight, we will recover them to full strength. However, when Denji takes too much damage, he loses his chainsaws.
This is
So
true.
that could be very detrimental to his
So,
long-term game plan if he's against someone who can fight for a very long time.
yeah.
Which I think a lot of these characters can. A
I
lot of these
mean,
characters have super high endurance.
yeah, a lot of these characters are main characters, and that's a sort of staple.
Ooh, he's against Deku.
That's an
So
interesting
this
matchup.
this will be end of series Deku with all of his abilities. So he'll have Fajin, Danger Sense, Black Whip, and his usual strength. So I honestly think Deku is probably one of my top choices for winning this tournament.
That's that we'll see. That might be a one-sided fight. Oh,
Ooh,
Levi.
Levi. So obviously Levi's not the main character of Attack on Titan, but I do think he's the best fighter if we
Yeah.
don't consider like
All-
Titan forms.
All things considered, yes, I agree.
Especially because if we put a Titan against someone like, I think Denji would be okay, Deku would be okay, but some of the other characters on this list couldn't deal with a Titan, and
Yeah.
it'd be too much of a one-sided fight.
Yeah.
So Levi seemed a little more reasonable. Amazing
Yeah.
fighter, incredibly fast and skilled. I'm excited to see what he can do. In this competition.
Aaron is definitely your sort of middleweight class individual, because I don't think he stacks up to the heavy hitters that we talked about before. So if you'd be interested in seeing a midweight bracket, let us know.
Or a heavyweight bracket. I think one of the reasons was when a character gets so strong, lore-wise, it's so hard to tier them up against a different character at the top of their lore.
Yeah, agreed. Who's he going?
Oh, he's against Kirito. This will be a virtual Kirito because if we put regular Kirito against anyone on this list, he is so screwed.
He can't do shit.
No, he can't.
That would have been a funny twist.
It would have been such a funny twist. Oh. Natsu from Fairy Tail. Incredible endurance, incredible spirit, fire abilities from Fairy Tail.
Also very creative. Like that's one of
very
his
creative.
staples.
He's very good at fighting. He's an idiot otherwise. It will be interesting if he's against a really smart opponent, if they can outsmart him. I will also say that he's immune to fire abilities. So anyone using fire on this list might have a hard time.
I will say, I mean, Levi's already on the list, but actually an interesting matchup would have been Natsu versus Levi, which we might get because they're in neighboring brackets.
If they both win their first seeded bracket, then we will be in for a great time. Okaru from Don to Don. So he will be at full speed, but he can only go full speed 2 or 3 times before he loses all of his abilities. So he'll have to be very careful about balancing that.
I agree. He, if Natsu is able to essentially outpace him, then Natsu has a shot.
I think Natsu has a pretty good shot then. Natsu is pretty durable. He's taken a lot of hits in the past.
It's true.
Haru, great Brave Master. So end of series Haru can change his 10 commandments to any of his blades. Yep. So theoretically, he'll have a lot of variety in his weaponry.
Yeah. Which I think gives him a unique advantage because the only other weapons wielders would be Kirito and Maka, right?
Edward kind of counts because he can make weapons. Tanjiro as well. Kenshin, Asta. I think there's a lot of weapon wielders.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm looking at it now. But his weapon changes and has special properties.
And the 10 Commandments is designed so that you can change your... Is he against Edward?
It's funny.
It's variety against variety. Edward from Full Metal Alchemist, he can essentially make anything he needs to. So he's going to be a very creative fighter. He does tend to prefer Earth alchemy.
Yeah. So
that's an awesome matchup.
That's gonna be a tough one.
It will.
Kenshin.
And I presume we're using full bloodthirsty Kenshin.
This is Demon Kenshin from the war.
Right. Rurouni Kenshin usually is very pacifistic, but incredibly skilled swordsman. And he's against
Against
Meliodas.
Meliodas.
Demon versus demon. Holy shit. I promise we didn't plan this.
I mean, we're spinning the wheel for everybody to see.
Yeah, but like, I promise we didn't spin the wheel. There's not 1,000 takes of this until we got the perfect one. Kenichi, history's strongest disciple. He can do a lot of different martial arts, and he has a lot of variety and techniques that he can use.
His
So,
advantage though is he's able to mimic his opponent or any fighting style.
yes. So this next roll technically determines both of them, at least the way they are seated. So Kenichi will be against
Jojo.
Jotaro. Fist fighter versus fist fighter. That means our last match will be Tanjiro versus Asta. I don't think we could have planned this more perfectly.
So this is our seed 1 through 16. Not actually really seeded because we just spun a wheel and people landed where they landed. But yeah, these are the matchups. This is what we're going to be tackling today. But we have a special element that Eric is going to talk about.
Because I realized that if we just put them in an arena, certain characters would have disadvantages. For example, Levi has a more favorable element in a town or somewhere he can zip around the environment versus just an arena. So we came up with 12 different locale that we're going to decide on the D12. 12 because it was an even number of different locale that seemed different enough and interesting enough theoretically, and we're gonna roll every time for the matchups.
So these are our different arenas that we have set up, and we thought that these had enough variety where it would actually impact the outcome of the fight. So our first locale is Konoha Forest. To Eric's point, this would give Levi a huge advantage.
Yes. We've all seen that scene with the Beast Titan where he just decimates a bunch of Titans.
Yeah.
Levi would have an insane time in Konoha. Our second locale is Infinity Castle. The question being, for example, obviously Tanjiro has a good time because he can adapt to the location, but it's a very confusing landscape. I have this suspicion that Denji would have a very hard time and would be just be tripping balls.
I think
he'd be tripping balls over it.
I think Denji would actually adapt to Infinity Castle the fastest of all of our contenders. So that's interesting.
Such a wild card. He's such a wild card.
He's such a crazy one. Our next one is Inside Wall Maria. So basically think of a typical town landscape. So buildings are typically 1 to 2 stories tall, no huge skyscrapers, no big trees. There's the ground, there's a little bit of elevation, and that's about it.
The next locale is inside Fairy Tail Guild, because that guild gets destroyed on a regular basis. I thought it might be a fun place. Like, you can smack someone over the head with alcohol, or just throw barrels at people.
It's also interesting.
Honestly, anything.
It's also interesting to have an indoor fight location where you have to sort of keep that in mind while you're fighting, and you can also use that terrain to your advantage. So looking at the list, I think that's our only indoor arena.
It is. For this next one, rules in the universe will apply. So our next one, the Budokai Tenkaichi Arena. If you step out of bounds, you're disqualified, and that counts as a loss. Yeah. So some characters might genuinely have a hard time dealing with that.
Yeah, it's true.
Because there are a couple characters.
I think Denji would struggle with that.
Denji would be so messy with that.
Next one is Battle City. This is from Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle City. So
it's just a town.
It's a metropolis. So
it's a metropolis.
Battle City has skyscrapers. There are streets. So think Wall Maria, but with way more elevation, even more than Konoha Forest, because buildings get way taller than trees.
Correct. Our next location is the Pillarman Arena from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So there are stage hazards, like a horse that runs around the arena where if you encounter their path, you will get trampled. And that might be enough to take someone out of this fight, depending on their durability.
Also, depending on their awareness, because if they're not mindful of the arena setting.
I don't think Denji would be.
I don't think he would be either. I think he's screwed on this arena too. Denji genuinely may have
He's
some
such a
trouble.
wild card.
Next one is Marineford, but this is iced over Marineford, so this will be more.
So, and because these are events in universe, everyone else outside of the characters will be removed. So this is right after Aokiji freezes over all of Marineford. That way, you don't have to worry about 1,000 other characters on screen at once.
Yeah. And also, it being an ice field, it means that your stability on the arena will be challenged. And I think that that will be difficult for everybody.
Yes, I think so too. After that is Fishman Island, but specifically outside of Fishman Island, we're going to give each of our contestants a bubble
Mm.
to, if the bubble pops, then they better finish the fight fast.
Yep. So this will be an underwater arena.
Mhm.
Next up is Hueco Mundo, which is from Bleach. And we picked this one because basically it's just a desert. It's just
Right.
a barren nothingness wasteland. So we keep bringing up Levi. Levi, this would come down to a fist fight if Levi were
Mhm.
on this particular.
And I will say a lot of these contestants, Levi loses to in a straight fist fight.
Yeah. So Levi better hope this one doesn't come up for him.
Mhm. After that is Volcano Island from JoJo Bizarre Adventure Battle Tendency Part 2. A lot of Part 2 because it's just a good part, but also the locales are really interesting. We wanted somewhere with lava.
Yeah. Fire
That's
arena.
the
So
main reason.
Natsu I feel like would do quite well on this particular
Um,
arena.
he can't eat lava, but lava burns things, so probably he can probably recover off of that.
Yeah. And the last one that we have is the Moon from Soul Eater, which we picked because gravity would be affected, right? It's the moon,
Right.
and also similar to Hueco Mundo, it's just barren. There's not. It's
Yes.
just the ground.
Yeah. So hopefully you all agree that this is a nice variety of places.
And we may not see all of these arenas because, like Eric said, D12. D12 will
Technically,
determine.
technically we can see the same arena. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7
One, two,
plus
three, four.
8, 15 times in a row.
We could. It's very unlikely.
But statistically possible.
This is true, statistically possible. So, without further ado, let's get into March Madness. Wah, 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 wah.
So let's begin our story as all stories should begin. At the beginning, and as to why we're doing this.
Eric's putting on. He's got his like wizard beard.
We begin our story at the Palace of Zeno. And once again, the two Zenos are bored. They experience the Tournament of Power, and they are considering once again setting up a tournament. The Grand Priest says to them, well, we have seen the strongest of our universe. Says multiple universes. Multiple universes. Because they are technically separated. Perhaps a more interesting tournament would be for these new budding universes. And he pulls up images from all of our heroes depicted today in their fights. The Zenos go, oh, let's set it up. The Grand Priest tells them, well, these are budding universes. We shouldn't have the rule where they are destroyed if they lose. So let us collect the Super Dragon Balls to bring them back to life at the end of all of this. And as he sends out the angels to get all of our fighters, he also pulls in these additional worlds to be used as our tournament bracket. So the first match, once we set up all these fighters, is randomly chosen off of their little iPad selector. Zeno chooses who they want on their iPad and where they want. So for this first fight, we have
Sawada versus Maka.
and they will be in Battle City.
Battle City. What an interesting setting for this fight.
All right. So settings aside, now let's get into the bulk of how. So the question is, Maka's durability, I think, is a lot higher than Sawada, and he also has to be careful of the scythe. Has he ever fought a bladed weapon in his series?
I don't believe so, but get in the
I don't
chat
think
and
so
fact
either.
check us.
Fact check us. His abilities are flame and ice.
Which could be problematic for Maka, to be
Right.
honest, because I don't think she's ever fought anybody like that.
Yes,
Um,
but she also has fought a lot of monsters and demons, and she can magically enhance her sight.
it's true. And
And
she has, with her scythe, she has tremendous range.
so Wada is a pure fist fighter. I Even if he has mobility here, all it takes is one wrong move and he's done for.
It's true, but because he has ice abilities, he has the ability to impede Maka's dexterity, which
Mhm.
could impact her ability to fight. So I
True.
think this is a very interesting matchup. What are the implications of the arena on this fight?
For these two fighters, not much. They are on the swifter side. Maka uses her scythe a lot to move around areas.
I do think,
But for these
though,
two characters in particular, because they are relatively close range compared to some of these other characters, I don't know if it makes a big difference for them.
it might make a little bit of difference, in my opinion. I think it could tip the scales because you're talking about a bustling city,
Right.
and I don't think the rules of the arena apply, but nobody's going to get hurt, right? So you have a bunch
Right.
of pedestrians wandering around,
Well, no, I
dueling.
thought we said no. Oh, are people still there? Because for Marineford, then that means all these Marines and pirates would just be there watching.
Oh, you did say that. I think they should be there. I think that they shouldn't
Okay.
impact I don't think they should impact the fight in the sense that they interact with the fighters, but I
Okay.
do think that there's a pressure there when you're fighting around other people, which I actually think could impact Maka's ability to fight effectively because we do see throughout her series that when the pressure's on, she can buckle.
Yes, but she also rises to the occasion.
I'm not saying that she doesn't. I'm saying that that's a factor I
Yes,
think that could give
that
Sawada
is
the
fair.
edge.
That is fair. But Sawada also has that same trait.
Fair enough. That's fair. So I guess this would actually probably come down to a fight of wills then.
Right.
And it would come down to who we think has the greater will. I would
So
argue
Maka
Maka.
does have. I would also agree because Soul Resonance puts her will on in the same wavelength as Soul. So
Right.
you technically have two wills
Two.
against one.
That's exactly why I would argue that Maka would outperform Sawada in this particular fight. I think that gives Maka the win, and I think
I think
Maka
so
takes
too.
this one.
All right, who's our next matchup?
Our next matchup is Denji versus Deku.
Oh, this is gonna be wild. We are in Fairy Tale Guild.
That's the perfect setting for these
It
two.
is. It is. So, in terms of abilities for Deku, he has Gear Shift, which allows him to perform at a higher rate, with the downside of slowing down afterwards. He has Danger Sense, which is basically Spider Sense, and it's on at all times. He
Right.
hits really, really hard, but Denji is also insane.
Deku also, though, I think we need to point out, I think this is a battle of personalities. So the
Mm-hmm.
previous one was a battle of wills. This one I think is a
Right.
battle of personalities because you have just batshit crazy Denji against
Mm-hmm.
Deku who has an inferiority complex.
Yes. I will also say Deku is unlikely to actively use the environment to fight because he doesn't want to destroy things. Denji
Right.
doesn't give two shits
Denji's
about.
gonna be throwing all kinds of crap at
Mhm.
Deku.
Yeah. In terms of durability, I will say even though Denji has a lower endurance, Deku,
I think Deku takes it. Or not Deku. I think Denji takes it on durability. I think he
my number one seed out this early.
You wait,
Uh,
you seeded Deku number 1?
yes,
That's wild. I didn't
Deku has
actually
such a high power level compared to the other characters.
That's interesting, but I think that Deku's main struggle is his personality where
Mm-hmm.
cuz he needs validation and I think going up against someone like Denji would just I don't know that I could put it into words, but I think that him fighting Denji would, because Denji's just so like w- crazy.
Yeah, and the locale that they're in, he's just gonna start destroying everything, which Deku's gonna try to stop, which
Right.
ends up in his detriment because Deku is so good at like not trying to minimize collateral damage, whereas Denji is walking collateral damage.
And without some sort of catalyst to sort of get Deku to focus, I think Denji takes it, because you see throughout the series Deku, like, there are like flashbacks and crap that like inspire him in critical moments, and without something like that, I don't think that he actually has the ability to focus himself, if that makes any kind of sense.
Because here the situation is that they can fight 100% without any consequences because whoever dies is going to be brought back.
Right.
Denji would fight this way regardless if anyone was brought back.
Right. I think Deku
But
would struggle.
Deku still has that humanity to him where I think he's holding back against an enemy isn't that he doesn't absolutely have to beat.
Right.
Damn, I think you're right.
I think
Oh,
Denji
my
takes it.
bracket's destroyed. My bracket's so fucked up.
That's wild. I think Denji takes it though.
Oh, I'm so sad. I'm so upset.
Well, our first upset of the bracket goes to Denji from Chainsaw Man. Moving on to our next bracket, we have Levi versus Kirito, an interesting matchup, who are going to be on
Volcano Island from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Volcano Island. This is an interesting one because I'm not sure how this would impact Levi. There is elevation, but not in the sense that he could gain advantage using it.
Right. In terms of so Kirito does have very fast reaction speed. That's his whole shtick is that oh he's super fast.
Which is also Levi's shtick.
That's also Levi's shtick. I will say Levi's attacks are very straightforward. Are usually very straightforward. He usually goes in a line.
Yes.
Like he's very fast, and that's why no one can stop him. But a lot of his attacks are point A to point B.
That's a result of the gear that he uses, though, because
Right.
that's true of everyone from his particular universe.
Mhm.
And Kirito doesn't have to do that. I mean, he can, but he doesn't have to. And I actually think that Kirito has an advantage here because he technically, because he's a virtual character, he can realign his stats to match to give himself advantage in the fight.
Fuck.
I think Kirito takes this one too because Levi has a very specific set of skills
I've acquired over a very long career
that I don't think serve him on this arena.
His skills are very specialized to fight titans in places where he can be mobile.
He also needs to have in place he can be mobile, and he also needs height advantage. If he doesn't have height advantage, it doesn't.
What an upset! No.
I think Kirito takes this one, which he was the last seed
so
on my
screwed.
bracket.
Oh, my bracket is so messed up already. Well, I'm not taking home the $2.
Okay. So Kirito takes that one. Let's see who he's up against. Our next bracket is Natsu versus Okura.
We once again hit Volcano Island.
That's an interesting matchup because I actually think that field could be advantageous to both of these characters.
Natsu can continue to heal so long as there's something on fire, and although he can't eat lava, there's flames just throughout a volcano.
It depends. I'm actually not too familiar with this particular arena. So does this volcano have shrubbery, greenery, buildings?
Not particularly. So
and Natsu
maybe
also
not.
cannot heal using his own flames. It has to be a different flame.
Yes,
So
that is true. At the same time, though, he has taken some heavy hits in the past. Like he's been hit for half a day straight, and he still gets up. The question is, does Okaroon have a hard enough hit to take him down before he gets back up?
I think the question
Because I
here.
don't think Natsu can hit Okaroon at full speed, but Okaroon can only go full speed 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I think the issue here, or not the issue, I think the obstacle for both of these characters is going to be stamina. And
Yes,
if if Natsu can figure out a way to leverage the lava to set shit on fire, he then has unlimited stamina and he
I'm going to
easily.
say so. The volcano is on an island with, I want to say, a forest around it. I can absolutely see Natsu punching a hole in the volcano to make fire.
So I think that if Natsu is resourceful enough to do that, I think he has access to unlimited stamina, which means he will easily outlast Okaroon. So the question is, can Okaroon hit Natsu hard enough to take him out?
I don't think he can. Okaroon hits really, really hard, but Fairy Tail is just at a different level in terms of what they've been able to endure
It's true.
in
I think
universe.
I think Okaroon is pretty strong, but I don't think he's strong enough, even with a series of heavy hits, to take out Natsu, especially if Natsu has unlimited stamina and is constantly healing. So I think this one goes to Natsu.
I think so too.
So to recap, who we have moving on for the left side of our bracket is Maka from Soul Eater, Denji from Chainsaw Man. That'll be an interesting matchup. Kirito from Sword Art Online, and Natsu from Fairy Tail. Moving on to the right side of our bracket, our first matchup is Haru from Rave Master versus Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. And they'll be fighting on
Konoha Forest.
Konoha Forest. That's just like an out of left field. Like, I don't know that this will have too much of an impact on the fight.
Hmm. But Haru has mobility despite the big ass sword. So Farian increases his speed. Explosion explodes. So I think he can use the environment to his advantage, and I think he has in Rave Master, so he can technically get trees tossed at.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. But
Uh,
so can Elric. Elric
right.
also has that ability.
Ed doesn't. I don't think he's ever like done anything to trees specifically, but there's a lot of dirt in Konoha Forest that he can use for different structures.
I think
And
that
he also has his built-in weaponry as well, since he has his arm that he can turn into a blade.
I think that this is an interesting matchup because, as you sort of alluded to when we were spinning the wheel, this is a battle of creativity, I think, because Haru is obviously going to be naturally more creative since he has to determine which
I
weapon to utilize in what circumstance.
I disagree because his weapons are set. Technically, Ed has to be more creative because he can create anything from the environment.
I was just going to
Whereas
say,
Haru's is more, hey, here's your 10 abilities.
I think that um, this is an interesting question when it comes to creativity because there's, on the one hand, you could argue that if you have access to everything, anything is possible. But there's also the issue where if you have access to everything, what do you do? And Haru has built in guidelines, which could
Right.
help focus his creativity.
The
So
question is, are Haru's abilities theoretically superior enough to Ed's? So, like, um, one of his blades can absorb magic or elemental abilities. So,
right,
any sort of like water or fire wouldn't work against him.
right. It's sort of a natural canceling ability against Elric.
Mhm. Right. It does feel that way. And he does have higher mobility, which Ed doesn't with Sulfurion.
Right.
I think Haru might take this one.
I think Haru just has more readily available um just switching of tactics available to him, because I think what Edward would run into in this particular fight is not being able to adapt quickly enough because he has everything available to him.
In
It's
terms and because I think Haru is definitely a better close range fighter than Ed. Like, what are Ed's ranged options? He fires cannons,
I mean, technically he has unlimited ranged options because he
right?
can use his
But the
alchemy to
typical ones that he tends to use in the series, I think they're primarily like cannons.
cannons, projectiles, like physical. He doesn't actually utilize a lot of
Elemental.
elemental type
A
stuff,
lot of the elemental stuff is more like for shields and stuff.
which I think gives him an advantage to some degree against Haru, but I think Haru utilizes those types of abilities more. And I
We
think
have seen in Full Metal Alchemist where those structures can be broken, and I think some of his swords, like Explosion, can just break through any sort of walls that Ed can potentially make.
I don't know
I
about
think
any, but I do think that they
a
are
lot of
strong
them,
enough.
especially in Konoha Forest, where he doesn't have access to metal, for example.
Right, yeah. Yeah, because
If
he
he
can
had
only use what's around
metal,
him.
then he might have a better chance. But because there's only dirt and trees,
Well, that's not entirely true because I mean, like the whole point of alchemy is transmutation. So he could take the dirt and he could make it into metal.
yes, but that process usually takes a lot longer, and his tends to be like short, at least fighting style wise, short, a bit readily available. He doesn't tend to do like high process things.
Which he would have to do against Haru because, as you pointed out, one of his sword abilities is tremendous speed. So
Right.
it doesn't give Edward all that much room to do that kind of thing. So you're right,
Mhm.
he wouldn't be able to create something all too durable. I think Haru takes this one.
I think so too. I agree.
All right. Our next bracket is Kenshin from Rurouni Kenshin and Meliodas from Seven Deadly Sins, who are going to be fighting on
Infinity Castle.
Infinity Castle. I am so glad this is their arena
Mhm.
because I think both of these characters would have to adapt. So the question is, how quickly will they adapt?
Right. Meliodas adapts very quickly to things, and so does Kenshin. We are assuming that this is the bloodthirsty.
This is Demon Kenshin, so even at
Right.
like heightened senses to the Kenshin
Mhm.
we're familiar with from the
I
series.
think, I think from a just straight skill standpoint, Kenshin is a vastly superior swordsman to Meliodas.
Oh,
No question.
absolutely. I no hands down. I mean, like he developed an entire style of sword
Right.
fighting.
And most of the time, he even holds himself back. But I will say that Meliodas is a much higher power level.
This is true, and he also had his full counter is an interesting
I don't think the
element to
full
take
counter would.
count.
I don't think full counter affects. Does it affect physical? I thought it only affected
Oh,
elemental attacks.
that's a good point. That is a good point. So Meliodas' full counter, which is his ace ability, would not have an
Doesn't
impact
apply
on this
here.
fight.
So the question is, with his demon abilities and demon durability, can Kenshin overcome that?
That's a good question because, well, actually, if you think about the fact that Meliodas technically can't die,
Mhm.
does that give him the edge? Just like point blank.
I mean, if that's the ruling, then he just takes this tournament straight up.
That's true. That's true. So I guess that can't be the case. So I guess it would be if he's able to knock him out,
Mhm.
which I mean, this is an interesting thing because Meliodas is going to know that he can't use full counter. And
Or yeah,
typically the only reason he takes damage is to use full counter. So the question is
Mhm.
he going to take damage purposefully since he can't
I
use
think
full counter?
he's a smart enough character not to just take swings from a sword.
Right. I agree. I agree with that. So
He's not a stupid fighter.
this is such an interesting matchup because I think
Okay, does the environment play into anything?
I think the environment does impact because I think the question is how quickly do these characters adapt to the environment and are they able to leverage it? Because if one of these characters has difficulty adapting, then the other one would be able to leverage the rules of the arena to their advantage. And I'm leaning a little bit towards Meliodas being able to do that.
I think so too, unfortunately.
Just because Kenshin is only familiar with 2D movement, and Meliodas is historically a 3D fighter.
Right.
So,
He doesn't just use XY, he also uses Z in his
right.
abilities.
Which
So
Kenshin can't do. Well,
no.
no, actually that's not true because in his sword style, I forget Hiten Mitsurugi style, he has tremendous vertical maneuverability. That's like one of the things that's sort of tackled in the series. So, I take that back. He might actually ooh,
You know, I kind of want to give it to Kenshin.
I kind of want to
I,
give it to Kenshin
I think
too.
he may not be as durable or a straight powerhouse, but he's so much more skilled, and his fighting style doesn't take up as much energy.
I
Like
agree.
so long as he dodges things that Meliodas sends, because in a sword fight, Meliodas is never gonna win against him. I want to give it to Kenshin.
I kind of want to because he also Meliodas is also not a sword fighter; he's a dagger
No,
fighter.
he's a
So
dagger fighter, which is a big disadvantage.
huge disadvantage. I think I give this to Kenshin actually.
Yes, Kenshin. Moving past round one, unlike Deku, who completely destroyed my mini bracket.
Was
I'm still
Kenshin your number
better.
two?
No, but I'm just happy to see him move past.
Oh wait, I'm just curious. Who did you think this was going to come down to?
I honestly thought it was gonna be, uh, well, because it got originally I was thinking when we pitched all the characters, I was thinking probably Deku versus Natsu, but they're on the same
They're
side,
on the same
so
side, so that won't happen.
wouldn't
Although we
it wouldn't
might get it
happen.
for a semifinal.
We could see it. Well, not Deku.
Oh yeah, not Deku. Not that. Deku's out.
He got knocked out.
All
Wrong.
right, so our next bracket is Kenichi from Kenichi and JoJo from JoJo.
Kujo Jotaro specifically. So Star Platinum at its best.
Right.
We are in the Budokai Tenkaichi arena.
That's such because I think both of these characters are familiar with this type of arena because
Yes.
Kenshi comes from a
It's-
martial arts background.
And
JoJo comes from
Jotaro he's a street brawler, but I
but
think
he's
he understands.
familiar with arena fighting.
He's not stupid enough to just step off the arena unless he
Yeah.
was like kind of tired of fighting, but deep down he does kind of like beating on people.
Yeah. This is also an interesting matchup. So I
will
think
say though, Kenichi cannot copy Jotaro because he uses his
Okay.
stand to fight.
I'm gonna ask you why because I would disagree.
Because stands can only be seen by other stand users.
But it is established in Kenichi's universe that he's able to sense aura, and Stan is a type of aura.
Oh, so he's like seeing this massive energy coming at him, but he can't visualize it and copy the moves from Star Platinum.
Well, my argument is that he would be able to because of his nature of being the greatest disciple. Like that's his whole thing is he's able to copy any fighter and any style.
Right. The question is, does he have enough time? Because Jotaro does stop time for 2 seconds. Is that enough time to knock Kenichi out?
Oh, I mean, like, I honestly, because I was going to sort of draw this out a little bit, but I think that Jotaro wins in the first 2 seconds of the fight.
I wonder, only because does Kenichi have any method to stop himself? Because Jotaro's personality type, they meet in the middle and then he punches really, really hard. Can Kenichi stop himself from flying off this arena?
Ooh. So that's a question of how hard does Jotaro hit and how much can Kenichi take?
Yes.
And how big is the arena? Like this
Because I will say, the arena is on the larger side.
So, all right. So the question is coming down to can Kenichi take the first hit because he's gonna have
because he absolutely has to. Because Jotaro is used to doing one big spam against someone and then the fight being over. I
Right.
think Kenichi not only has better techniques, he can also fight. He also is more used to a long, elongated fight.
I think if Kenichi can survive the first hit, Kenichi actually has the edge because I personally think that he would be able to copy a Stan and given enough time because he does have to be able to observe the fighting style for at least a little bit in order to be able to copy it. And he
As
is
this fight goes on, Kenichi gets more of an edge.
correct. So
Well, what's the biggest hit he's ever taken? Has he ever been hit by like a truck or
no,
someone's punch that's hard about as
no.
hard as a truck?
Well, I
Because
don't know.
Jotaro's pretty like heavyweight
So I guess
compared
the
to
question
Kenichi.
is, how does Jotaro compare to Kenichi's masters? Because Kenichi has taken quite a number of hits from his
Right.
masters who are wildly strong and
Right.
nobody wants to fight them. And there are even statements between his masters where they say if they got into fights with each other, one of them would die.
I mean, they're obviously not hitting at full power, but they have hit him on the harder end. Jotaro, this is a full punch. Can't would okay? So arguing about it. Would Kenichi be able to handle a full power punch from one of his masters by end of series? And I think he
I
can.
think he can. Yeah, by the end of the
So
series, I think he can.
so if he can theoretically stop himself, he's a creative fighter. So let's say he's flying back, he punch, and it's anime physics. So he punches the ground hard enough that he stops midair.
Yeah.
Because we have seen that before in Dragon Ball for this arena where Roshi stops himself from getting off of the arena because he kicked the side of the arena so hard that his foot was lodged inside,
Yeah.
and that was considered acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Kenichi very ever so slightly has the edge in this fight because I think you're right. I think Jojo or Jotaro hits him first and expects that to be the end of the fight. And I
Yep.
think he just loses his footing from there.
We do have to consider Jotaro's time stop. However, Jotaro is not as good of a time stop user as Dio because he doesn't rely on it as much.
Right. It's also only 2 seconds and there is I think the argument to be made that could Kenichi sense it just before it happens and brace himself?
He does have very good fighting senses.
He does.
Whereas Jotaro is more of a brawler. I think Kenichi might take
I
this.
think Kenichi takes this one. I'm gonna go Kenichi.
That's a bit of an upset, and I know the JoJo fans are going to be upset at us for that. But
Hey, come at us. Come at us. So Kenichi takes it and moves on to the next bracket. Our final matchup for the initial seeding brackets is Tanjiro from Demon Slayer and Asta from Black Clover.
and we are at green first.
That's an
So
interesting
Tanjiro
match.
is very used to swinging above his weight class. Asta does have mobility though, so because he can fly.
Talk me through because I'm actually Asta is the character that I'm least familiar with on our bracket.
Okay.
So talk to me a little bit about what Asta's skill sets are.
His swords are anti magic. He has flight and sword beam capabilities. He is using demonic power and just kind of cancels out magic,
Okay. I mean, being
which we
able
don't have
to
to worry about
absorb,
here because Tanjiro doesn't use any sort of magical ability.
he
From what
doesn't.
I understand, the elements that they use in the series are more visual representations of their sword techniques. So if you look at
Oh,
it from outside, it's not actually that he's summoning water or fire or anything. He's just using a sword technique.
interesting. Okay, so
But
so Tanjiro is an entirely physical fighter. He doesn't have
correct.
magic.
Yes. And in terms of power level, I will say that Asta is higher because Black Clover is at a higher power level than Demon Slayer. But like I said, Tanjiro is very used to fighting above his weight class and timing things perfectly.
Here's the thing though, if Asta has magic, does that not give him the edge over a purely physical fighter?
So Asta has anti magic. he doesn't have magic.
Oh,
In a
interesting.
so he is a non-magical character in a world of magic users, which is what makes him interesting.
Interesting.
So his
Okay.
his skill set is also purely physical.
So this is
He
all.
happens to have flight.
So this is a pretty balanced fight then.
Mhm.
So does the arena impact the fight at all then?
Um, I think because it's Marineford and there is ice, the question is, can Tanjiro skillfully get to sections without ice, like the pier and stuff? I will say that it's surrounded by people, so Asta also isn't able to do as many fast movements that are because his attacks are a lot more wide area. Tanjiro might be able to like stealthily sneak onto the pier where he'll have a better footing
Hmm. Okay.
because he's able to navigate Infinity Castle no problem. So I
This is
think
true.
he is able to navigate just the sheer number of people on Marineford.
A little bit better. I think that mobility is definitely going to play a role here because if they're both physical fighters, then you have to look at what the environment is, what the constraints of the environment are. So,
Because he's not Denji, he's not gonna start cutting through people just to get by.
right.
Asta, I mean.
Right. Well, do you think Tanjiro would do that?
No, but he's at the beginning of the fight, if they're in the middle of the ice, he has more of a disadvantage and needs to get to a place where he can get a proper footing. But a lot of Tanjiro's issues usually is not being able to get enough air, which I don't see that being a problem here. Because
It
he's against one fighter
it could be
as
though
well.
because I don't know if the frictionless component of an ice field plays into this at all because that if they're both physical fighters, they don't have necessarily a way to really ground themselves with their ability with their respective abilities because it's a frictionless
Right.
arena. So if the argument is that Asta would have a better mobility on this particular arena, I think that puts Tanjiro at a disadvantage.
I think so too. I think Asta might
I
take this
think
one.
Asta would take it then because if it
Just
comes
by
down
a
to
very slim margin, though.
right, but if it comes down to who can navigate the arena better, the landscape better, then it's
The
got to go
one
to
with
Asta.
flight should theoretically be able to.
Correct. Yeah. So I think it's got to go to Asta.
Dang.
Okay. So our contestants moving on from the right side of our bracket are Haru from Ravemaster, Kenshin from Kenshin, Kenichi from Kenichi, and Asta from Black Clover. That's actually pretty wild. We've had a number of upsets already. We had
I'm so upset.
we had one, two, three. We had four and a half, I'll call, because I don't know that Kenichi was really an upset, but we'll call it 4.5 upsets already, which is like a half of our brackets.
Yeah, it's very upsetting.
All right, starting back at the top, we have Maka versus Denji.
And they are going to be at Fishman Island.
Fishman Island. Dude, okay, I have to say this off at the top. I thought that Maka was gonna take it. Obviously, I was gonna argue my case, but I thought Maka was gonna take it. But Fishman Island adds a whole different component to this.
I also thought that Maka was just gonna take down Denji. She's used to taking down demons. This is just another demon. He's just a little more wild.
Yeah.
Fishman Island. So they have the bubble around them and they are moving through water.
Yeah.
Because Maka has more of a swing to her attacks,
Dude,
that slows her down so badly.
I actually think okay, I agree with you. I think that that's a disadvantage for Maka, but here's a disadvantage for Denji. Denji has a chainsaw in
Oh,
his face.
oh, so he, oh no, wait, oh no, oh no, wait, no, stop, wait. You realize as soon as the fight starts, he's gonna pull on his cord and then lose his air bubble.
Yeah,
Maka takes it.
Maka takes it on a technicality, but Maka takes it.
Oh. Maka just. Oh no, Denji, no. Fuck.
That's hilarious. That is
That's so fun. I
too
mean, we
funny.
knew she was gonna probably win, but that's as fitting of an end for Denji's fight in this as I could have, as if I had planned it
It's
through.
too funny. Okay. Anyway, that's the best.
So he literally rips his cord and drowns.
That's yeah, because he doesn't even think about it. Is the thing.
No,
Like
he
does-
doesn't. That's the thing. He's too stupid to think about it.
Okay. All right. So moving on, we have Kirito versus Not.
We are once again on Infinity Castle.
Infinity Castle. Okay, so this is an interesting one because again, you have your contestants trying to navigate the perplexity with which the arena presents.
I don't think Kirito is used to fighting someone like Natsu. He's used to fighting bosses, yes. Bosses aren't quite designed like Natsu, where not only are they small target, is he a smaller target than Kirito might be used to, but he also has a ton of AoE stuff with flames. And Natsu's very used to fighting someone with blades because he's fighting Erza all the time. So he's used to fighting against someone with swords.
Right, but Kirito, because he's a virtual character, I don't actually think the issues with the Infinity Castle would actually present themselves
Right.
to him, if that makes any sense.
Yes, I also don't think it affects Natsu all that much because if something's in his way, he just rips it apart.
This is true, but the question is, can he maintain orientation? That's like the thing.
I mean, he had no problem fighting on the backs of dragons, which I feel like could be very disorienting.
Well, it's not
If not,
disorienting in the sense that Infinity Castle is, though, because Infinity Castle changes directionality, where if
right.
you cross a boundary, up is no longer up.
No, so that's a character actively doing that. Technically, up is up until a character swaps your position. But since they're not being
Right.
interfered with, theoretically.
Right. This
Because
is
I
an
think
interesting
Natsu,
one.
if Natsu has a castle in the way, he is the type to punch through the castle.
Absolutely. No argument there. So the question is, can Natsu interact with the environment and eliminate that component?
I think so.
Because if that's true, then it just becomes a level fight
Mhm.
of Natsu versus Kirito, and Natsu I think takes it.
Yeah, Natsu. I think Natsu can eliminate because yes, he can't eat his flames, but he can technically raise Infinity Castle to the ground.
Right. I think yeah.
And in a one-on-one fight, I don't think Kirito can hold a candle to Natsu.
I also think that there is technically the argument to be made that Kirito has an upper limit. He only has so
Right.
many stats that can be reallocated. Natsu technically doesn't have an upper limit.
Yes, and he commonly overcomes any limits that he does have.
Yeah. So it's very Dragon Ball, but I think that Natsu takes it. I think not.
I think so.
Given the circumstance, I think Natsu takes it.
I think so.
All right, moving back to the other side of our bracket, we have Haru from Rave Master versus Kenshin from Rurouni Kenshin.
Ooh. Sword fighter versus sword fighter.
Demon Sword Fighter versus Sword Fighter. Where are they fighting though, Eric?
Oh, right. Waco Mundo.
Waikyo Mundo. Okay, we haven't seen this arena yet.
No, we haven't.
So I guess let's talk about the arena then, since we haven't seen this one yet. So this is a barren wasteland. There are, I guess, some dead, petrified trees,
But for the most part, really bad footing.
Really bad footing. However, well, I guess they both have experience fighting in sandy environments because we see a
Right.
number of
They do.
times Kenshin fights on the beach and
Yes.
Haru's travels all over the world. And one of the main climactic battles in Rave Master happens in a desert. So
Right.
I think they're both pretty suited for fighting in a desert.
I will say though, in terms of swordsmanship, they are a little closer than their previous matchups in terms of skill level. Or sorry, compared to Rurouni Kenshin versus Meliodas,
I'm sorry,
because I think
say that again?
I think Haru is a much better swordsman than
And
Meliodas.
well, Meliodas isn't a
So
swordsman.
yeah, so like that's so at least skill wise, I think they're more comparable. Kenshin is more skilled though in terms of like it's not as much of a gap though
I gotta
as
say,
Meliodas.
I'm still leaning Kenshin because Kenshin is a master swordsman, and he
Right.
even limits himself on what he can do. I mean, this is Demon Kenshin, so we're not going to
So he's
see those
unlimited.
limitations. But
So the question is Haru's toolbox enough? Because is Kenshin used to enough or adaptable enough to fight against 10 different swords all in one go?
well, Haru can't use all of his swords at the same
Right.
time. It's like a
Melforce can't be used. Yes, but he by end of series he swaps between them as he needs to pretty frequently.
pretty quickly, but it's still only one sword.
Right.
And I think that Kenshin would be able to figure that out very quickly and actually be able to exploit when that moment when he's switching swords.
He is very fast reaction wise. I think Kenshin might take this one.
I think unless Haru can end the fight really fast, Kenshin takes it.
And I don't think he can.
Yeah, I think Kenshin takes it.
Kenshin's reaction time is just too good.
Yeah, I agree. He's too good. He's too good.
He is.
Moving on, we have Kenichi versus Asa.
We are inside Wall Maria.
Wall Maria. That's interesting.
So
I don't know that it matters.
I don't think so. I don't think it does. So Kenichi can learn very quickly his opponent's skill set and imitate them. He's also used to fighting against blades.
Kenichi is used to fighting against blades?
Or he's used to like blades since he has his teacher.
This is true. I don't know that we've
But I don't know if
seen...
he's ever fought with a blade. He's used blade techniques the like times, but never actually fought against a blade user.
Yeah, I don't actually recall him fighting against a blade wielder. All of his fights are fist fights, which I think puts him at a disadvantage against Asta.
I honestly think Asta is fast enough in his full speed to hit Kenichi hard enough for a one-hit kill, depending on how well we think Kenichi can essentially dodge a flying bullet at him.
Well, the question is, because Asta's a blade user, right?
Yes.
So the question is, can Kenichi, I guess, dodge the initial attack? Because this was the same thing with Jotaro. If he's able to survive the initial attack, Kenichi gets stronger as the fight goes on.
Yes.
I guess the question is, does he survive the first attack? And if he's getting attacked by a blade, I'm inclined to say because you can't brace against a blade. You can brace against a punch, but you can't brace against a blade.
Right, and I will say that even if the fight drags, at no point can Kenichi start copying Asta's techniques because he doesn't have a sword of his own.
Right, the only thing he can do is anticipate and dodge.
So I think this leans towards Asta.
I think it's leaning Asta. I think Asta takes it. Asta takes this one for a semi-final position. So our semi-finalists are Maka from Soul Eater, Natsu from Fairy Tail, Kenshin from Rurouni Kenshin, and Asta from Black Clover. These are some interesting matchups.
This bracket is
didn't go the way we expected it. Not that we expected it to go anyway. It was a totally random bracket.
I have the next arena.
What's the next arena?
Maka and Natsu will be fighting inside Fairy Tail Guild.
Inside Fairy Tail Guild.
Well, once again, Natsu is about to wreck the place.
I think this limits Maka, though.
It does.
I think it's severely
Inside Fairy
limits her.
Tail, she can't swing her scythe as easy.
Right. I think that the obstacles to overcome are much greater, and this is home field advantage for
It
Natsu.
is. I don't think it technically matters, but Natsu will be destroying the guild, the locale, regardless of where he's fighting.
Correct. But there's a home field advantage, I think, is a significant thing to
Yes.
consider.
Yes. It is. He's used to the area. He knows the area. Maka isn't, and is also character-wise unlikely to wreck a place just to fight.
Right.
I don't think
So
she's usually pretty good on collateral damage.
so limitations there. I agree with you. I don't think that she's just gonna go in and wreck everything. And also difficulty wielding her weapon. She also doesn't have, I mean, there is magic, I guess, in her world, but she
Yes.
doesn't have too much ability to fight like fire.
Right. Especially if a whole wave of fire is coming at her, technically doesn't have a good defense against that.
Yeah. The only thing
Other
that
than
she could
swinging
do,
her scythe,
right.
which we have mentioned that limits her in a inside location, because
Yeah.
a scythe is a really cool weapon, but it takes a lot of area to swing it.
Yeah, it's a very
I think she's skilled enough to swing it. However, she's not fighting as freely as she normally could.
I think this would be a defensive fight for Maka, and I think ultimately she wouldn't be able to overcome the restrictions of the arena.
I think Natsu completely decimates her in this fight.
I don't know about decimates.
He very is willing to destroy his home.
This is true. I do think Natsu takes this particular fight. Unfortunately, I was pulling for Maka, but I think Natsu takes this one. The arena is just too much of a factor. Our next finalist position is going to go to either Kenshin or Asta.
And we are in Konoha Forest.
Konoha. I actually think, even though it doesn't actually give him advantage, I think that Kenshin has advantage here.
I think so too. Just because there is less aerial mobility for Asta if he has to dodge trees.
I also think that there's like a sense of familiarity because Kenshin's whole thing was that, like, in his demon days during the revolution, he was an assassin. And
Right.
I mean, yes, he's very, very familiar with cityscape and how to navigate a city, but he's also, we see him several times throughout the series fighting in the countryside, and
Right.
his resourcefulness in those environments, I think, is very, very high.
I will say though, to Asta's credit, even though Kenshin is a much better sword fighter, zero question about it, I'm not sure he can keep up with Asta's swordplay because of how different it is.
That's an interesting point because
Because Asta will be a very much a hit and run type character,
right. I
and
do
his
think
sword can also overpower Kenshin's if Kenshin is unable to parry and has to block. Because I don't think he can block a hit from Asta. He can parry it. The question being, is Asta a good enough fighter to hide that he can dual wield till the last second?
I think that the dual wielding is an interesting component because I think that we see Kenshin fight a number of different styles throughout his journey, and that's almost central to the plot, where
Right.
it's sort of just Hiten Mitsurugi is sort of the best sword style. The problem is that it has massive drawbacks, but I don't recall, because it's been a while since I've seen it, if he fights a dual wielder.
I don't think he does.
I
I
don't
mean,
think he
someone
does
in the
either.
comments will tell us if we're wrong, and that'd be fine. I'd love to be wrong about this. I think Asta might take it.
I think only on the premise that he dual wields, he might take it.
Yes. And he does do it pretty frequently.
So, and I also think that I think that we could have a very, very long debate about who's faster, Kenshin or Asta.
Right.
So I think that it comes down
I think
to
movement wise, Asta is faster. Reaction time wise, Kenshin is faster.
I think that that's a fair assessment because there is one of those one of the fights later in the series we see that Kenshin's physical prowess may not always be up to snuff with somebody else's, but he has something else in his
Right.
back pocket to compensate for it. So
Hmm.
the question is, would Kenshin be able to compensate for lack of speed?
I don't think in this case he can.
I don't think, especially when you add in the fact that Asta dual wields.
Hmm.
I think it's a tough call because I was kind of pulling for Kenshin, but I
Hmm.
think Asta takes it.
I think so too.
In the final positions, we have Natsu versus Asta, which is such a wild
Wild.
matchup.
And we are finishing our tournament on the moon from Soul Eater.
That is so apropos.
It really is.
That's wild. Okay, so this is going to be a weightless environment. Asta,
Or less weight. Less weight.
right, less weight. I'm sorry, not weightless, but it's gonna feel weightless.
Asta definitely has higher mobility since he does have the built-in flight.
I think that you know what the argument that I'm gonna make here is that Natsu is actually gonna have a disadvantage early on in the fight because he's gonna be surprised by the
I
impact of
think
weightlessness.
I can see him having more fun with how high he can jump than actually because we let Maka have soul because he's an integral part of her
Or
fighting
kit.
technique.
Yeah.
We're not giving Natsu Happy only because he doesn't technically need Happy to fight.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he fights all the time without Happy.
I genuinely see Natsu just jumping and like being happy, being like overjoyed with how
Wait.
high he's jumping that he completely forgets the fight's
Wait.
happening.
Yeah, wait. Are you making the argument that this fight ends in 2 seconds because Natsu's too distracted by weightlessness that Asta just
But at the
takes him
same
out?
time, Asta like rushes at him, and then he literally I can see him literally catching the blade with his mouth or something stupid like that.
Oh, Natsu, you mean?
Yeah,
I could actually see that happening, and I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna say that that happens because that's one dramatic and two doesn't end the fight in 4 seconds.
it doesn't, and also I think that's how the characters would actually interact here. So the question being, if the fight doesn't end immediately, the longer this fight goes, I think the more advantage Natsu gets.
I don't know that I agree. I think that he definitely has a good amount of durability and stamina, but he doesn't have a way on the moon. Wait, hold on. Rules of the arena apply.
Correct.
You can't make fire in space.
Well, the, the characters are breathing on the moon in Soul Eater, so I assume there's like a pocket of air. Also, his flames are magical, so they don't technically consume oxygen. They consume mana or whatever magic
Okay.
is innate to characters, so
Okay.
he can still fight normally.
Okay, that's fair.
He has accelerated himself with flames before, so I think he can keep up with Asta's speed advantage.
Okay.
I don't think he'll be as fast as Asta, but he can. He isn't a sitting duck like Kenshin was in his last fight.
Well, hold on. That's a statement. I don't think Kenshin's a sitting duck against Asta, but I do think that Natsu is going to have more of an ability to engage with Asta in this fight. So,
Sure.
this goes back though. So we were talking about stamina. If Natsu doesn't have an ability to recover because he can't
Mhm.
recover using his own flames,
Right.
where do they stack up against each other as far as stamina goes? I'm inclined to
I think
say,
I think Natsu still has higher innate stamina,
yeah.
only because he has fought for days straight at a time,
I'm inclined to agree that Natsu
and he's
still takes
also
it on
very
stamina.
used to having multiple attacks coming at him, even if Asta dual wields, because he fights against multiple people regularly for fun.
Yeah,
He's used to like brawling against a lot of people.
I don't think that dual wielding gives Asta any particular advantage. I do think that his speed is his primary advantage in this particular
Mhm.
fight. Although you mentioned before that Asta has anti-magic abilities.
Right. So as a
That's
result,
definitely a component.
because of this matchup, I think Asta takes it because he cancels out all of Natsu's spells.
He cancels out his spells, but Natsu is still a
Okay,
skilled
he
fist
is,
brawler.
and when he can't use magic, he has in
He
the
does.
past just straight smacked someone
Yeah,
to win the
he
fight.
absolutely has.
Shit.
And I think that when once Natsu figures out that he can't use magic, he will absolutely adapt and change to
Mhm.
fist fighting. And I actually think that
And I also think that Natsu has in the past, like when he can't use magic, wait until the very last second to use his magic.
which if
Because
Asta
the
has
sword,
to
this Asta blocks magic with his sword,
right.
but he can't. But if he's getting punched in the face, he can't block that magic.
Right. And this was actually I was about to say, I actually think that if Natsu figures it out fast enough, it doesn't even have to be fast. I think once Natsu figures out that he can't use magic against his sword, he will figure out how to get in close and punch him in the face.
Yes, I think Natsu
And
won our match March
I
Madness.
think once that happens, Natsu takes it.
Thank you, God. Victory!
Yes.
All right, we have
All
our
right.
winner for
Well,
March
but this
Madness,
is where
everyone.
this is where we would play the fairy tale theme, but that would get us copyrighted immediately. So, just insert some like fanfare,
Dude,
and then audience pretend that the fairy tale music is going on.
that is a wild conclusion to our lightweight anime bracket March Madness, though. Who would have thought Natsu would have taken it all the
Well,
way?
he was my number 2 pick, so I'm at least content that I'm somewhat
Okay,
correct.
wait.
But my
Eric thought that Deku was gonna beat Natsu.
well, I thought that the fight would go down to Deku versus Natsu, and depending on the arena, not Deku would have a chance. But Natsu, I
That's
think, would have been too
wild.
much of a powerhouse.
I think Natsu beats Deku every time. It doesn't matter what arena. But I would have liked to see Natsu versus Denji. That's the fight I wanted to see. Let us know in the comments what fight you
Honestly,
guys wanted to see.
I'm amazed that Denji made it past round 1 and then immediately took himself out round 2.
No, that was the best arena that Denji could have fought on.
Oh,
That's so funny.
that's so funny. That's so fucking funny.
Huh?
Damn, but let us know what you thought of this bracket. Let us know if you disagree with the victors in any of the fights, and let us know if you want
And
to.
this was our reasoning. You can disagree, and it's okay. But tell us why. Tell us why you disagree, and I'm sure you're probably right. But it's fine.
Let us know if you want us to do a midweight and a heavyweight bracket. This may come back in the future.
Maybe we'll do it next March Madness.
Next
We'll
March
see.
Madness. We'll see. But that's all we got for you today, guys. We hope you had a blast. We'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.